Hello and welcome back to the Faz and Lowgy channel. In this week's episode we're going to be continuing with the city. As you can see in front of you, this is how we left the city at the end of the last episode. We're going to be adding more buildings this time, and we're also going to be adding something else that's a bit different. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to expand out our platform area here. We're going to use grey blocks and we're just going to create these large areas. And now we've gone all the way to the edge of the world border. And what we're going to do here is we're going to build a square. And this square isn't just going to be a normal building. We're going to be constructing a column. A giant column. I have said numerous times throughout the other videos that I have really ambitious plans for this project. And this is what I'm referring to. This is just the beginning of giving you an idea of what the scale of this build will be. This column is going to go very high up and there's going to be a lot going on around it. In this clip, I just rearranged this roof. So I wanted this roof to be less flat on the top, so I made it a bit more peaked. Those red outlines are outlines of buildings that I'm showing you. And now I'm going to be jumping over to one of those buildings to start construction. So for this building, I was doing a very simple blocky building like normal. I'm going to be using the wood blocks slightly differently by not embedding them in the blocks, but I'm going to be sticking them out the front so that they give a bit of depth. I do a standard sort of roof on this build, and I line it with the same type of wood structure that you're seeing in every other building. I do create this small little bay window out the side. I add the roof to it, and you can see I've chosen white shingles to do this roof, and I've given a little extra window part in the center there just to give it a bit more detail. And that is building number 1. So now we're going to move on to building 2 and building 3. These buildings are right at the back of the build, or to the side of the build. For this first building, I wanted it to be a bit messed up, a bit, uneven. So I've shifted over the middle layer to the left, and then I've brought the top layer out forward 1 block. This building to the right, I've decided to create an open sort of middle layer. So it's just going to have those wooden beams to support it. It's going to have a floor and maybe some fences around the outside, but it's going to be mostly open. I come around to the building on the left and I do the classic roof design that I've been doing for all the buildings, and I use orange shingles on that roof. Then it's just a case of building up the brown building on the right. I chose a white shingle roof for that building. And you can see on the right there, I've left a balcony area that will turn into a balcony eventually. So now you can see from the city that we've added those 3 new buildings at the back around our column. And it's just going to create more depth to the city. I haven't put in windows yet, but we will be doing that before the end. Now it's time to continue with the city and just to keep adding some more buildings and some more areas for us to build those buildings. I mix things up with these grey stepped areas to try and make it so that I'm forced to place buildings in different places. Sometimes that's a really good tip for a build. If you shape the terrain or the base of your build into a specific way, sometimes it gives you ideas for how you can fit the buildings into those shapes. So you can see that I've outlined 3 buildings here, and I'm going to be adding these 3 buildings to the build. I'm going to be working on all 3 buildings at roughly the same time. So we're going to see their progress together. There is a 4th building there. It's like a tall, small square column. That's going to be a small towery sort of building. So we're actually adding 4 buildings to this part of the build. So after building up the areas where I'm going to put the roofs, we are going to go in and we're going to add those roofs. So for this first building in the center, you can see that I'm using orange shingles for the roof. For the next building, I'm using white shingles. It's going to have a white roof, so it's a red building with a white roof. This building in the center is an orange building with an orange roof. I want to mix the colors up when I'm building these buildings, so the building on the right is an orange building with red roofs. We're going to have a big mix of colors in the city, but we are, like I said at the very beginning, keeping it to those warm colors. That building on the right there, I want to do something a bit different, so I'm creating these sort of tiers of roofing, and you can see there's 3 of them, and as the building gets progressively higher, it gets thinner, and each time it gets thinner, there's a small bit of roof that sticks out. I just thought it was a nice touch to make a building a bit different in the build, and yeah, because it's at the back, it doesn't get seen too often, but it's a nice little touch that it's there, and it's different. On the side of the building, I wanted to create this small little balcony area where you could sit, or where perhaps it's where you go to enter the building. I just wanted an area where I could have a little bit of extra detail. So now we're working on this tower, and it's slightly taller than most of the other structures in this area, and I'm building it up with brown stone, and I'm using red roofs, and I'm using dark wood on this building. Instead of having a sort of straight steeped roof, I decided to have 4 different peaks of steeped roof. So there you can see the 4 new buildings that we've added in this part of the video, and combined with the 3 other buildings we built previously in the video, we've got 7 new buildings in the city for this episode. And here you go, here is a look at what we have so far. By adding these extra buildings, we've made the city more detailed and larger and more clustered, and it's starting to look really good. As we continue to add buildings, it's just going to look even better. For the last bit of this video, I wanted to work on this large column that I'd made. Now, I hadn't touched it, it was a giant square. I wanted it to be detailed, I wanted it to be fancy. It's got to look special, it's a giant column amongst buildings. It needs to be there for a reason, and hopefully you'll see what I'm going for. I start digging out some of the areas on the sides of the columns to make them look like they're connected sort of spheres. I also dug these giant holes into the side of the column, And that is because I'm going to be adding detail. So here you can see those holes, and I'm going to be filling them with yellow stone, and then I'm going to be adding a pattern in the middle. And I played around with lots of different patterns to see what I liked. And now you can see how I'm designing those patterns and playing around with different patterns, and then you'll be able to see the one that I finally settled on. And there you go, that is the final column. You can see those yellow details as it goes up, and you can see the whole rest of the city laid out before you. I've now added in the windows, and everything is looking really good. By adding the column to this build, I'm sort of giving away that I've got something planned for the ceiling or the roof of this build. You know, I'm going to be having maybe a giant roof on the build, and maybe I'm going to be having a lot of these other columns going the whole way around the build. I have my own plans that I'm going to be making, and hopefully things will start looking really good within the next couple of weeks. In the next episode, we're going to be continuing the city, and we're going to be continuing adding buildings. Hopefully we're going to add a lot more buildings. I mean, we added 7 this time, and that's a step up from the 4 we added last time. And maybe next time we'll try and add even more. As always, thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.